Hey everybody, it's Captain Contrary here, Norm, your buddy, your pal, and I'm making this on October 30th, 2024, and we're just a few days away from the election. And I think, I've been trying to avoid making a video, um, only because if you make a video, the kind of videos that I want to make, which are really not about electoral politics or federal politics, then it just the things that I'm going to be talking about kind of get lost in the weeds. But I kind of threw this out there. I was tossing around the idea of maybe making this and talking about Donald Trump's tax proposal. So I figured, what the hell, let's do it. As most everybody, my 5 loyal listeners or subscribers to this channel, thank you very much for subscribing. You probably already know, Dad, that I am not a fan of taxation. I do believe that taxation is theft in all of its forms, whether it's tariffs or legal or tax, fees that the government applies to you, which I feel is extortion, or the income tax or even sales tax. Now, that being said, I'm also a pragmatist, and I understand that unlike some other people who are purist, I do understand that there's different levels of taxation, and that we're not going to wave a magic wand and overnight everybody's going to be living in voluntary land or in Kapistan, and that anarchy to me, voluntarism, those are the goals, and you realize that you're never going to hit those goals. So it's like, so what's the throughput? So there's that. It's like if we can get government cut down to the bone, and particularly in America, in the United States of America, if we can get it to the government that was originally laid out in the Constitution, I still would complain, but I would be much more preferable than the present the state that we have. So likewise, when Donald Trump says that he is considering and mulling over the idea of eliminating the IRS and the income tax, I'm elated. Now, I personally don't think this is going to ever come to fruition. I hope I am wrong. I hope that that whoever is in his ear, if it's Vivek, just stay in his ear and just convince him that do it. You're going to be hailed as the greatest president to have ever governed the United States of America, bar none, if you eliminate the income tax. And how we raise taxes after that is something else. We can talk about going back to apportionment and maybe even repealing the 17th Amendment, the 16th Amendment, and getting having senators represent the states again and be appointed rather than directly elected. And then we can talk about apportionment among the several states, and that kind of stuff. But before we can do any of that, if eliminating the income tax is on the table, let's take it. And same thing with no taxes on tips or no tax on overtime. Great ideas, baby steps. So I'm for those things, and if any one of those things happen, I would be particularly happy. Now, that being said, I have a feeling because Donald Trump's a deal maker. The reality is that the eliminating of the income tax and the IRS is probably not even his goal. I think the art of the deal is playing here, and I think it's a pretty smart thing. It's like, all right, he's probably using a tactic that usually the government plays on us. An example is, I believe it was the Susquehanna River Bridge not too long ago here in Maryland. They really wanted to raise, I believe, the toll from $4 to $6. Um, Knowing that they're going to have a fight on their hands, what they did is they floated out a proposal to go from $4 to like $12 or $15. Some pie in the sky thing. I mean, it was just absolutely nuts, and everybody lost their collective freaking minds. Um, so, of course, as everybody gets the bad press hits and people go crazy and insane about it, and oh, we can't have $12 or $16 or $8 or whatever the hell it was. Eventually, they come back and say, oh, well, how about we do $6, which is the goal, which is what they wanted to begin with. So you over ask, and you're not going to get that, but if you do, hey, great. But that that's not the goal. The goal is to get this down here. So by asking for too much, you're going to get where you want. So that being said, I have a feeling that's what's going on with Donald Trump. He's laying the groundwork for, I want to eliminate the income tax. I want to eliminate the IRS. That's his bargaining chip. And so now when he actually might want to go bring taxes down to arbitrarily, I'll just say 10%, or maybe he wants to float out the idea of a flat tax or something like that. He's using this to lay out, all right, I'm going to threaten you with eliminating the IRS, but really what I want to do is introduce a flat tax, and I'll have you come to where I want you to be rather than me go to where you want to be. And I think that's what's going on with this, and I'm fine with that. I think it's good politics, and particularly with this particular behemoth of a government and surveillance state that it is. That's what you got to do to get some significant reforms to get taken care of. So I'm perfectly fine with that if that's the end goal. But I also realized that it may not happen at all. The reason why I wholeheartedly support Donald Trump is twofold, and I've elaborated on this before in the past. Why I switched from RFK, if you watch that video, and became MAGA. The first reason is because he is, anti-war, and war happens to be the one thing that is directly in the power of the presidency. He has the power to wage war, and because Congress has abrogated its authority to the executive branch, and they've done that since I think World War II. So the executive branch can pretty much, without consulting Congress, wage war willy-nilly. And Trump, like him or not, he has a propensity to not want to start new wars, and he's, where credit is due, he pulled us out of Afghanistan, and he brokered that deal. So compared to the alternative, which is Harris, which would technically be the 20th year of the George W. Bush administration and the doctrine that of the Cheney and Bush administration, which would be just more war and just spread the money around to all your favorite Raytheon and what's it, Boone and Crockett, I think. I think that's a hunting club. Booz Allen and Hamilton, and all these other military industrial complex things. Lockheed Martin. Just keep throwing them and making them billionaires off of wars and sending our troops over to be slaughtered for no particularly good reason. Nothing certainly in the direct national interest of the United States. Just it's because there's people that are in power in the military industrial complex, and that's that's where they need to. That's how they hold on to their power, by sending us over to fight wars. I wish I could even claim that it was for oil, but it's really not. I think at the surface level, it looks like it's at war. It's that, but it's really just about producing bombs and the next weaponry and the weapon system, and if people gotta die, people gotta die. And everything I've seen from Donald Trump says he's genuinely against that. He's not afraid um, to use the military when needed. And I think I really had criticized Trump over this, when he was president, of him killing, I think it was Kashkari, the Iranian general. And it wasn't until just a few months ago, even before I was supporting Trump, that somebody pointed this out, and it actually, now that I think about it, it makes a lot of sense. So I think a lot of people, especially my libertarian, anarchist, and voluntarist friends, were justly upset about this. But the alternative is to send our troops in to fight in Iran. And what Trump did, I think, is a lot more honorable. It's dropping a bomb on one of your generals and saying, hey, if you keep acting up, this is going to be you. All right. And that is, I think, if you're going to drop bombs and kill somebody, it makes sense to me to take out the generals and take out some leaders and some politicians and say, look, we can either come to the table and negotiate peacefully, or I can just kill you bastards. And then, you know what? Your people live, my people live, and you in power die. I can't argue with that. I think the people who start wars and profit from wars should be the ones who die from wars. So, generals gather in their masses just like witches at black masses. It's just like the song says. Evil minds that plot destruction. Sorcerers of death's construction. Black Sabbath. It's just, they're war pigs. And I really, if Donald Trump wants to, I wish Iran would take a hit, take a lesson from Donald Trump and say, all right, Netanyahu, we know where your top 3 generals live. We're going to take out number 2 and number 3. We'll leave you number 1, or maybe we'll just take out number 1 and leave number 2 and 3 to send the message. We don't want to fight the Israelis, and we don't want our people being fought. So if you want to start wars, you're next, and you're the one that gets bombed. All right, we're gonna drop it on your house. I can't argue with that. That's just that it would be. That's a monumental shift in the way wars are waged and wars are avoided, and to me, that's the most honorable thing that anybody has ever done. Is I want to avoid war. I don't want my people to die. I don't want your people to die. So we're just going to kill the war pigs. So, yeah, I'm wholeheartedly supportive. Everything else about Donald Trump, there's a lot of his domestic policy that I'm not crazy about, and the rhetoric that he sometimes does is over the top, but that's tolerable when you've got somebody who's willing to go to the mat for the country and for the people on both sides, not just one-sided. He's not just, he's looking out for everybody, and he's willing to go to the mat and take out the people who are starting wars and the people who are misbehaving and trying to egg us into wars. What can I say? So likewise, I don't hold a lot of stake. I'm going to circle back now. The weave, as he called it in his Joe Rogan interview, and I'm going to weave into this. Likewise, if he doesn't do the tax policy thing and he doesn't fundamentally change the income tax, I will say this much: he brought the conversation to the mainstream. The idea that maybe people will find out about Frank Chodorov and the income tax, the root of all evil, and read that pamphlet, or that people are actually talking about in Republican circles and independent circles now, that the possibility to end income tax is out there, and how do we possibly do it? That is alone is worth something, because people like me who were from the Ron Paul revolution, who are Austrian, into Austrian economics and understand the Federal Reserve, and we understand monetary policy, and we understand um, the income tax and what it means. This is something we've been talking about for 15. Well, Ron Paul's been talking about it for 40 years. But somebody like, man, I've been talking about it since, at least 2009, the first time I ever heard the name Ludwig von Mises, on Ron Paul's show, by the way. Tom DiLorenzo was the interviewer, and Professor Tom, shout out to you. He was the first person I ever heard mention that, and that one mention of Mises changed my life. It changed the way I thought about everything. So, and likewise, somebody else is going to be out there, and not just one person, but probably many tens of thousands of people, hopefully more. But I think it's reasonable to say tens of thousands of people are going to be looking at, wow, what would it mean to end the income tax? And when you start talking about that, and when you start researching that, and you're going to wind up in Rothbard camp, and you're going to wind up against, you're going to rub up with Hans Hermann Hoppe, and you're going to, rub shoulders with Chodorov and Hazlitt, and I think I said Rothbard and Mises, and other great thinkers along the line. And then you're going to have people like Tom Woods and Jeff Tucker, and just all these fabulous names that that have been talking about liberty for years, that are just going to get a light shined upon them, and you're going to begin to change that name, or that thought. Move the Overton window, and so, yeah. God bless Donald Trump, and I think he's on the road to making America great again. I know it's his MAGA and Make America Great Again as a tagline, but there's periods, there's things about America during certain periods that that if you could take those things and put them together, like the time before the income tax, and back when senators represented the states, and government was a lot smaller and a lot less intrusive, that were fantastic about America, that made us extremely special. So, for instance, before we had a lot of financial freedoms, right up until the 70s and 80s. I mean, people could walk in and sign up with a bank account and deposit thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, even millions of dollars, and you wouldn't have to give your name. That's security, and that's privacy that we have since lost with Know Your Customer and the laws and the Patriot Act. Communist China, they have that now. All right, Communist China is financially more free than the United States of America. So we need to get back to that. That's true freedom. I mean, it's having the freedom of speech and the Second Amendment and the freedom of religion. Those are important things. But also tied with that is the privacy and the financial freedom. And we need those things back. And Kamala Harris isn't going to do it. I'm not even sure Donald Trump himself will be able to do it. But I do think he's the right direction, that maybe somebody after him can come along and do that. So, I'm not, again, I'm the cult of personality for Donald Trump is not with me. I don't buy that he's the end-all be-all. But he is a good vehicle. He is a good conduit. And I believe, ultimately, he's a good person, not a bad person. So, anyways, I think this is the last video I'm going to make before the election. Who knows? I think we're 6 days out right now. And I could make some other video because I don't know what the future holds. But I am going to be talking about something I'm going to be working on for the upcoming future election in Maryland, and it's a Maryland issue, and I'm going to be needing help with it. So, and I'm trying to put together my thoughts now on how to explain what I'm talking about. so that I can get the point across and people can understand where I'm coming from. I've already talked about some of this stuff in the past, um, but I'm going to wrap it up and try to put it together and make some fundamental changes, or at least an effort or a movement to make some fundamental changes that could change the dynamics in Maryland considerably in the favor of the people, not in favor of the government or the incumbent party or even the opposition party, but in favor of Marylanders and what Maryland represents. So, with that being said, I look forward to making that video in the future, and that's probably the next video that I will be releasing. So, in the meantime, thank you very much for your time and the last 20 minutes. Especially my 5 subscribers. If all 5 of you have watched this and stuck through to this part, God bless you. Because I'm really not the most interesting person in the world, and I'm not even a good speaker. But I have some ideas, and I'm just going to try my best to roll with those ideas, and maybe somebody who's more articulate than I can come along and pick up these things and maybe possibly work together, or just you can take them and run with them. I believe Reagan, was like, I don't care who takes credit for it, just as long as it gets done. I think was one of the things Reagan said. And I still find that to be my philosophy. I don't care. I don't need credit for any of this stuff. I just really want a world where if I can leave it in a better place for my kids and my grandkids, or hopefully grandkids, I could die a happy man knowing that I did something like that to change it, so that I know my kids are going to have a better chance than I actually had. So with that, thank you very much. God bless, and we'll talk to you next time.